you've got three broad groups in society. The politics is changing in terms of away from class to identity politics, to use that term. Identity, a sense of culture and nation. And they argue you have 24% of the populace who are broadly liberal, who favour diversity. And that's broken down into two groups, whom they call confident multiculturalists. There's only 8% of them, and 16% mainstream liberals. So you've got 24% of the British populace who would be conceive themselves as liberal, who are right on, value diversity, usually well-educated people, who feel secure. Then you've got at the other end 23% who are hostile to diversity. This can be active or passive hostility. Okay? And in the middle you've got the mainstream of 52%. Now they're the interesting group. That's the battleground for the future. The mainstream, this report argues, comprises two groups. One it calls the identity ambivalence. That's a nice term for you. The 28% of that 52% are what they call identity ambivalence. And then 24% are cultural integrationists. All the terms, I'll unpack what the terms mean. The identity ambivalence, so we're talking here about the mainstream, and that's where the battle lines will be drawn in the next 10 years. Can we make sure the mainstream is open and sympathetic to a measure of diversity and doesn't move into the 23% who are hostile to it? That's the battleground in the next 10 years in British politics. Who are these people? They're less financially secure than those who are very supportive of multicultural society and less optimistic about the future. So they're not very secure, they're not terribly optimistic. They're more likely to be working class, to live in social housing, and to view immigration through the prism of its economic impact on their job opportunity and so on. These identity ambivalence include British Muslims. So that's where they are. Now, I'm in Bradford. I've had British Muslim friends really have a go at the new migration from Poland. So third generation British Pakistani, or first generation British Pakistani, is sounding off against these new wretched Poles coming into the city, when they were the receiving end of that kind of rhetoric 30, 40 years ago. So here we have settled communities, which now include Muslims, having a go at the immigrants, because economically insecure, impact on health and education. And the other group, the culturally concerned, they're generally older and more prosperous than the other group. Many have been professionals and managers, more likely to view immigration as a cultural issue, as it impacts on national identity and the perceived willingness of the migrants to integrate. They tend to vote for the Conservative Party. So this middle ground is pretty much evenly split between traditional Labour voters and Conservative voters. And I think that's a very helpful overview. And so for the second slide, I put a few questions. If you read the far right's rhetoric, what I said basically in terms of the sort of, they no longer explicitly play a racist card, but they'll play the culture card. So they defend English culture, whatever that is, against something called Muslim culture, whatever that is. And they say, well, actually, we have English culture, we value it, and Muslims, they have their own culture, they properly value it, but they're different and incompatible. And this is an English society. So there's a new rhetoric, and it's around culture. And therefore the challenge is, how do we challenge the notion that there's some monolithic thing called English culture or Muslim culture? And here I can say to my Muslim friends, sometimes an easy and loose talk about the Ummah can actually obscure the diversity within the Muslim community. So, yes, you're part of a Muslim worldwide Ummah, but you can see how the language of the Ummah can feed into this rhetoric. There is a separate Muslim thing out there called the Ummah, which will your first loyalty are.
But from my novice understanding, Ummah doesn't mean specifically just a Muslim, smaller Muslim community.
It need not, Angela.
It doesn't
need not.
But it's wider.
It's how it's heard.
Yes, Ummah plus the whole Muslim world. Literally, the word Ummah encompasses the whole Muslim world. Yes, there are people, there are groups out there, people out there who define Ummah as something that refers to him and his friends are a bunch of small. In reality, the word Ummah, if scholars use the word word Ummah, then Ummah refers to the whole Muslim world. So from east, west, and south. Yeah.
You can see how all I'm saying is we have to be careful how we use language so we don't play into this kind of polarity between us and them.
Ummah is actually used for a global community. As the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is sent to all of the worlds, and it is said in the Holy Quran, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, that he has sent me to the whole world, worlds, not just world. And the global community is translated in Arabic as Ummah.
Yeah, sure.
And now, unfortunately, Muslim has started using it only for Muslims, and that is confusing. There is one point which is just related to that.
If you take the far right, firstly, they operate in the kind of black and white world of us and them. Those are in and those are out. So there's no place for grey, there's no place for complexity. So it's us and them, black and white world. Secondly, and the point that we want to make is it's a politics of nostalgia. It's arguing for an Englishness. It's a selective retrieval of Englishness, which never actually existed in this way. So it's a selective reading of English history. So it's based on a nostalgia when England was great and dominant, and that generates a kind of suspicion and fear that the world is gone. So you're trying to retrieve this golden age of Englishness. And the third characteristic is this commitment of its ideology, its nostalgia as ideology, political ideology. You want to capture power, and you're also prepared to use violence. Now, if you look at jihadist extremism, you have exactly the same structure. It's a selective, it's a Manichaean black and white worldview, us and them, us and the kuffar, locked in eternal conflict. And both of these then, I think, are even our politics of nostalgia, a selective reading of our history. One in terms of Englishness, it was never like that anyway. The other in terms of Islam, it was never like that anyway. It was much more complex than that, whether Englishness or Islam.